For years, it seems like corporate strategy has been on this endless hunt for a magic solution. That one perfect fix, the silver bullet. And for a long time now, that silver bullet has been the pursuit of a universal coaching culture.
Right. It's everywhere.
The philosophy behind it is, it's brilliant. You empower your managers, they unlock potential in their teams, people figure out their own roadblocks.
And all that personal growth gets aligned with what the business actually needs. Then you just watch the magic happen. Productivity and retention just, soar.
And we've seen it work.
What?
Our sources, they all confirm that when coaching is done right, flawlessly, it really does accelerate development and improve performance. The case studies are there.
They are.
So if the idea is so solid, why is the corporate version of it so widely mocked, so frustrating, and let's be honest, failing at scale?
And that's the core question, isn't it? That's what's at the heart of the sources we looked at today, especially the really powerful insights from Sylvia Ola.
Exactly. And before we really unpack her main argument, that the whole corporate context makes this ideal almost impossible to execute, we want to make sure you can keep up with the kinds of insights that led us here.
Yeah.
Just take a second and go subscribe to and follow The Contrarian HR. They're on Substack, YouTube, and Spotify.
It's basically required reading if you're in this world. You won't regret it.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to synthesize the 4 big structural reasons this coaching dream just collapses.
Yeah.
We're really centering this on a truth that the corporate narrative loves to ignore.
Which is?
Not everyone can coach. Not everyone wants to coach. And maybe most critically, not everyone is coachable.
Okay, let's get into it. What's so fascinating here is just the sheer gap between the expectation and, reality.
Yeah.
Leadership buys this glossy story that coaching is just a mindset.
Right, just think differently.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the managers who are supposed to actually do it are caught. They're stuck between that corporate mandate and having, zero resources or actual skill to make it happen.
So we need to define those constraints for you, the listener, so you can see where your own organization might be tripping up.
Let's start with the most fundamental one, the one that organizations seem so determined to just look past: the skill gap.
We hear the slogans all the time. Everyone needs a coach, or all leaders must be good coaches. But we have to pivot to the counter reality.
It's that quiet truth that I think everybody kind of knows. Very few people can actually coach, and even fewer can coach well enough to make a real, measurable business impact.
And we confuse it with just being a manager.
All the time. We assume that if a manager is, listening more or checking in, then they're coaching. They're not.
It's not just a warm, supportive chat or giving someone advice on a task.
Not even close. Real coaching is a highly specialized developmental discipline. It demands this very specific cocktail of pretty rare soft skills. You need skilled questioning that actually cuts through the noise.
And a certain amount of psychological insight, right?
Yeah.
To get at what's really going on.
Yes, exactly. Psychological insight, a deep understanding of developmental stages, and this is a big one, emotional attunement, the ability to actually connect with someone's internal world.
But without just solving the problem for them.
That's the discipline, to guide without directing. And crucially, you have to be able to challenge someone without immediately making them defensive.
Which is an art form in itself.
It is. And maybe the hardest part of all, you have to leave your own ego completely out of it. The conversation is not about you.
That is heavy lifting. And the core argument here from Ola is that most managers got promoted because they were great at their last job, technically.
Precisely. Not because they possess this whole suite of nuanced, frankly rare soft skills.
And this is where the whole corporate fantasy just falls apart.
It really does. Mastery of these skills takes years of deliberate practice, supervision, often a lot of deep personal work. You just cannot get there in a 2-day workshop.
Especially one that's mostly about how to fill out a new performance review form.
Right. So the narrative that every manager can be a coach with the right mindset, it ignores the fundamental constraint.
And it's so important to remember that constraint. Not everyone can coach. The skills are too specialized. Not everyone wants that kind of developmental pressure put on them. And maybe the biggest one, not everyone is coachable right now. They might be burnt out or just lack self-awareness.
So trying to force this model onto that reality, it's guaranteed to fail before you even start.
So if skill is the first giant hurdle, the next one hits you immediately.
Even if you are a highly skilled, motivated manager, you can't beat the clock. You can't beat the simple math of your workday.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The second huge problem, the time crunch. Quality coaching needs quality time, uninterrupted time.
But our organizational structures have, well, they've evolved in the completely opposite direction. They make that time impossible to find.
The sources highlight this brutal arithmetic of modern management.
They do. I mean, look at org design over the last 2 decades. The average manager's span of control has, what, basically tripled.
Tripled. Teams that used to be a manageable 5 to 7 people,
Yep.
where you could actually dedicate real time.
Just ballooned. 15, 20, I've seen 30 direct reports.
30. Just scheduling one-on-ones for 30 people is practically a full-time job. But Ola points out it's not just the number of reports, it's the workload multiplier.
Right. It's not just the headcount. Think about everything else that's piled on. Relentless administrative burdens, new HR systems, expense approvals, resource plans.
Then you have all the reporting requirements. For compliance, for ESG targets, for the quarterly business reviews, the QBRs, which demand hours and hours of data work.
And that's all before you even get to the digital noise.
Hmm.
Managers are supposed to be on 30 different Slack channels, handling a constant flood of email, managing all these automated tools.
It all just combines to suck every available minute out of the day.
So you have this ideal, right? Spend 45 to 60 minutes every week with each person, digging into their motivations, their career goals, what's blocking them.
And then actually follow up on it.
The reality. Most managers are just relieved if they can squeeze in a basic one-on-one once a quarter.
And that meeting is usually just about putting out fires.
Exactly. So the expectation of weekly, deep developmental coaching for 20-plus people, it isn't about resistance or managers not caring. It is quite simply a mathematical impossibility.
It's baked into the design of the job itself.
You cannot just manufacture that kind of quality time out of a schedule that's already packed to the breaking point.
And that structural reality leads us right to the third argument, which is maybe the most cynical one: organizational sabotage.
Even if a manager has the skill and somehow, miraculously, carves out the time and desire, the organization itself often prevents coaching from succeeding.
It's this institutional hypocrisy, right? If we connect all these dots, that's what we see.
Totally. The organization says it wants a coaching culture, but it absolutely refuses to support the operational changes needed for that culture to exist.
The source gives this perfect, painful example. A division where managers were just drowning. Their spans of control were ridiculous.
And they were actually trying to implement this coaching initiative.
So they went to senior leadership, and they asked to redesign the org chart. They proposed fewer direct reports per manager so these conversations could actually happen.
And what did senior leadership say?
No, they refused the structural change.
Of course they did. Because structural change means potentially increasing headcount, which costs money, or it means disrupting hierarchies that people are comfortable with.
It means admitting the current design is broken.
And it's just so much easier and cheaper to buy another 2-day training program and declare, problem solved, we now have a coaching culture.
So you have leaders talking passionately about development, but they refuse to touch the actual levers, the workloads, the reporting lines, the span of control that are making development impossible.
They're prioritizing structural inertia and short-term cost savings over actually building long-term capability.
The result is what the source calls performative coaching.
Just ticking a box. Managers are forced to say they had a developmental conversation, but it has no weight. It achieves nothing. Coaching culture simply cannot grow in an environment of poor organizational design.
The structure has to match the intention, otherwise the whole thing is dead on arrival.
So what's the takeaway then? If the skill is rare, the time is gone, and the structure is actively working against it, do we just give up on employee growth?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But we have to start chasing this myth, this idea that training every manager for a couple of days is going to be enough.
We need to get away from that universal, one-size-fits-all ideal. The author proposes something different, a move away from the silver bullet and towards a multi-layered, more realistic system.
One that actually acknowledges the constraints we've just been talking about.
Exactly. It's about building a system with realistic anchors.
Okay, so the first element of this model is to focus on upskilling managers in basic developmental conversations.
Yeah.
And that distinction is critical.
Right. We are not trying to turn every manager into a certified coach. Certification is intense, Hundreds of hours of practice, specific methodologies, ethical frameworks.
This is more foundational.
It's the essentials. Teach managers how to ask good, open-ended questions, how to understand basic motivations, how to give constructive feedback that's about the future, not just raking over past mistakes. That's an achievable, scalable skill.
Okay, that makes sense. Number 2, use external coaches strategically.
Yeah, except that your internal resources for deep coaching are, and always will be, scarce. For your high potentials or for teams that need a really rapid deep shift, bring in the specialists.
And the source specifically mentioned group coaching as being really effective here.
Very. It's a great way to get rapid, cost-effective acceleration for a team.
All right, number 3, and this one has to come from the top. HR and senior leadership have to design realistic spans of control.
This is non-negotiable. No coaching model, no matter how amazing the manager, works with 25 or 30 direct reports. It just doesn't.
So the company says it wants development, it has to budget for the time it takes.
It's a design prerequisite. It's not an optional feature.
4th, and this one feels important, we have to accept non-coaches.
Yes. Stop forcing your best technical expert into a management role and then demanding they become a world-class developmental coach when they have no aptitude or, frankly, no desire for it.
Use coaching strategically, where the talent for it actually exists, not as a blanket mandate.
And finally, number 5, the real goal should be creating a culture of support. Forget the mythology of universal coaching.
The goal is just an environment where learning, getting feedback, and growing are normal. It's part of the day-to-day, no matter where that support is coming from.
Right.
And as a kind of practical side note, Ola brings up something very modern.
Right.
Just use AI coaches.
Look, if you need to practice basic skills or get feedback on a presentation or run through a difficult conversation, technology can handle that transactional piece really effectively and cheaply.
And that frees up the manager's incredibly scarce time for the really complex human stuff.
Exactly. The psychological insight, the real developmental blocks, the conversations only a human can have. Using AI for the basics just makes that human time so much more valuable.
You know, this brings up a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. Have you been truly coached or mentored in your career?
And if you stop and really reflect on it, the answer is probably yes, multiple times.
And I bet those critical moments didn't look like a formal, expensive, branded coaching session.
Not at all. Ola's point is that most of us do get these crucial nudges. It just doesn't look like the corporate slide deck. It might have been the right challenge from a senior leader who saw something in you.
Or just some timely advice from a colleague you trust. Or that one specific piece of feedback from a manager during a project that just clicked.
And those moments, that right nudge at the right time, that can be enough to change your entire trajectory. And crucially, nobody needs to be coached continuously. That level of intensity would be exhausting.
So maybe the real coaching culture is, as the article says, alive and thriving after all.
It just doesn't need the corporate buzzword status. It happens organically, through intentional support and good structures, not through mandated training and impossible expectations.
So we've taken apart this corporate dream of a universal coaching culture, and we found that the structural barriers, the skill gap, the impossible math of time, the refusal to fix the org design, they're just too big to solve with a training program.
We have to pivot to a more realistic, multi-layered model, one where the structure actually supports the sentiment.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. If the genuine goal is just growth and development, forget the workshops for a second. What specific structural or cultural element in your organization could be redesigned today?
Something like reducing the span of control for a key team, or centralizing admin work to free up manager time.
Exactly. What change to the structure would have a greater, more immediate impact on employee growth than investing another dollar in the next manager training program? Think structure over sentiment.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.